Welcome to the Alsandor Law Podcast, your go-to resource for demystifying family law with experience and empathy by your side. Hosted by attorney Cheryl Alsandor, founder and lead attorney at the Alsandor Law Firm and a board-certified family law specialist. Together with attorney Cheryl, delve into the intricate world of divorce, child custody, and more, sharing valuable insights, expert interviews, and real-life stories to support you on your family's legal journey. No matter what challenges come your way, our team is here to guide you every step of the way. Join us and let us help you find clarity amidst the legal maze, paving the way for a brighter future.
Welcome to another episode of the Alsandor Family Law Podcast, where we break down key issues in family law. I'm Cheryl Alsandor, Houston, Texas board-certified family law attorney, and I'm here with Brandy Spike. In custody discussions, emotions quickly rise to the surface, and they often overshadow what's really important, which is the child's well-being. So today's topic is one that resonates with a lot of parents. It's how to approach custody discussions without letting emotions take over. This episode is going to equip you with insights and tools for communicating effectively with your co-parent while staying focused on your child's best interest. So let's get started.
All right. So, obviously, we know custody discussions are inherently emotional, but could you explain kind of why it's essential for parents to remain aware of their feelings and emotions during these conversations?
Right, because if parents are not aware of their emotions, the conversation goes sideways. What's really key in parent custody discussions is the child's best interest.
Mhm.
And so you have to be aware of your emotions because if not, you're likely going to say something that's going to not only offend the other parent, but it's going to have long lasting effects and it's going to hamper future discussions when you really need to be co-parenting to raise this young human being into a good adult. That's the ultimate goal. And so both parents usually have really good life experiences that they can draw from. Even the negative experiences are good experiences to draw from. So you've got to hear each other so that you can collaborate and take your experiences and your knowledge, put it together, and raise your child into a good, healthy adult.
Right. And could you talk a little bit just about like the effects on, the children when custody discussions become super emotionally charged? Like, what should parents keep in mind about the potential long-term impacts of these discussions?
Right. What I hear parents talk about and what often comes up in discussions with therapists is that oftentimes the children are aware of what's going on. No matter how much parents try to have discussions outside of the hearing of their child, children often know because children read their parents. They love their parents, and so they're paying attention to their emotional state, telephone conversations. Even if you're in another room, your child's looking at you, they're looking at your gestures. They know you're talking to mama, they know you're talking to daddy. And what happens is a lot of times when children know that there's a custody case going on, they internalize what's happening. They believe, oftentimes children believe that they are at fault for the lawsuit because they know that custody is the central issue in the lawsuit and they're the child
Mm-hmm.
and they're the central part of the lawsuit. So oftentimes children, they blame themselves for what's going on with their parents and they start to feel badly about themselves. And so you don't want a child to clam up, close up, and stop communicating with their parent if parents are not having good communication. They don't want mom sad, they don't want dad angry, so they stop talking or they stop communicating what's really going on with them. And you don't want that to happen. You don't want your child to feel like they are the blame for the lawsuit happening because they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
They're the subject, they're the purpose of the lawsuit to make things better, but they're really not at fault for causing it. You want your child to communicate with you, to not feel at fault for the lawsuit, and to be open with you,
Mm-hmm.
to not feel afraid to tell you what's going on or how they're feeling without feeling like mom's going to go blast out dad or dad's going to get mad at mom. Your child doesn't want to and need to go through that.
Right. And I mean, if parents go and kind of focus on that self awareness when they're making these discussions, you think like there might be a bit of a positive shift in that they might see with their co parenting relationship and just generally with their child's sense of security?
That can help. I think for a lot of parents, they need some new tools.
Mm-hmm.
They need some new tools. Oftentimes, when parents are trying to co parent, they were previously married or they previously had some sort of relationship that didn't work out.
Right.
And so they tend to know how to push each other's buttons, but they never resolved how to work past that button pushing, which is
Mm-hmm.
why their relationship ended. And so for a lot of parents, therapy is a good solution. All of us need to work on ourselves.
Right.
For a lot of parents, they are taking baggage from childhood, baggage from other relationships, and they're bringing it into their current relationships, even into their co-parenting relationships.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called co-parenting coordinators. There aren't many of them now that help parents to co-parent. Family counseling is also a tool that parents can use to co-parent. Both parents have to be willing. And a lot of times parents feel hopeless when it comes to counseling. Oh, we tried this. We did everything we could. No therapist is going to help him. No therapist is going to help her. But you'd be surprised when you have that neutral person who can understand both people and then help both parents understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some tools there of one, just getting help and just being calm. Just keep in mind that what you say is going to last a long time because you're going to be co-parents for a long time. It's not just when the child is age 18, we're out of here. No, you're going to be grandparents together. You'll be going to graduations together. To some degree, you're going to always be family. So you want to try to get along. You don't have to like everything about the other parent, but you want to make sure that you are not trying to go for the jugular either because it's just not going to do any good in the long run. You have to continue to maintain your relationship, co-parent, and have this extended family relationship that you're going to have for a long
Right.
time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Could you maybe walk us through some methods or strategies that parents can use to try to keep those emotions in check during difficult custody conversations?
Well, for one, breathe. Sometimes when we're ramped up or on the ceiling, as we say, in our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so take a breath. Stop and think about what you're going to say. Oh, he or she said this about me. Well, I'm going to let them have it. Maybe not. Back up and focus on your child and what you're trying to convey to the other parent and what information you're needing from the other parent. So pause, take a breath, focus on the purpose of your conversation. That's one step. Another thing that can help is using writing. If you can write what you need to communicate, that's a lot better. Co-parenting software is quite common now. We're using co-parenting software like Our Family Wizard, Talking Parent, AppClose, which is free. And so a lot of parents communicate through their co-parenting software. And in fact, a lot of court orders order parents to communicate
Mm-hmm.
through co-parenting software because it keeps the communication clean. It's thoughtful communication. You may type up a scathing sentence and then you think about it, you can delete it before you send it. And so that really does help to keep the communication child focused,
Mm-hmm.
to keep the communication humane and productive and helpful for the child. And again, as I said before, if you need to speak with someone, you can go into therapy, have your own private counselor, or take it up one step further, and both you and the other parent go into family counseling together.
Right. Seems like a lot of the things that work really well is, just kind of thinking before you speak, whether
Mhm.
that's taking a breath to think about it first or, writing it down. Because, I mean, you have to read what you wrote down before you send
Hopefully,
it. So
hopefully.
that's hopefully, yes. And I know you mentioned, a counselor or a therapist helping out with this stuff. So what role would one of those two play in helping parents kind of manage the emotional challenges of co-parenting?
Right. So I'm not a counselor or therapist. I'm basing this on what other parents have told me and what I've learned from therapists when they teach us lawyers. And so a therapist is going to focus on the root of the cause of maybe the anger. A lot of times, parents are angry about something that happened between them a long time ago and it's over. Or
Hmm.
maybe one parent moved on in their relationship with someone else. And so there's oftentimes some healing that needs to go on first. But again, you're not going to necessarily be the best of buddies, but you definitely want to get the anger addressed and figure out what the root of it is, and move to a place of, if possible, forgiveness,
Hmm.
and move past that. And so the therapy might work on, something like that, where you can get to a place of peace with the other parent. Therapy can also help address, one's own issues, because we all have issues. No one came from a perfect place. And so we can, in the family therapy or individual therapy, a parent can learn to look at his or herself with the help of a trained therapist. I always prefer psychologists for my clients because they've got the clinical background, and the insight to really understand the individual aspects of a person. So definitely individual counseling will help one work on their own stuff,
Right.
and they're going to bring their own self into that co-parenting relationship. So if a parent can work on their own issues, it's going to improve the co-parenting relationship, and not just the co-parenting relationship, but the parent-child relationship as well.
And I mean, having said all that, do you think that, a counselor or a therapist could be something really good to use even if the custody process is going smoothly?
Sure. I mean, it can definitely help to stave off problems, especially as you're planning for your child. You may be planning what secondary school is the child going to go to,
Hmm.
or how are we going to pay for college? What about, the annual class trip? How are we going? Who's going to go? How are we going to pay for it? So there's always planning that needs to happen. So communication can help. Therapy about communication rather can help. And also, as your child grows, children go through phases, they go through things. It's hard out there. There's a lot of peer pressure, and social media certainly doesn't help. And so having a place where the parents can talk about, hey, my child's going through this new phase, I'm seeing these behaviors, or they're withdrawing, whatever it is, that can be a great place to strategize and problem solve some of the parent child issues
Hmm.
that the parents are seeing. And so they can co parent some problem solving so they can get ahead of some of the issues that their child is having.
Right. So, what are some of the essential types of information that parents should communicate with each other in a custody situation, and why is it so important to keep each other in the loop?
Right. So most parents, most of my clients, what I hear them say is, hey, I want to know what's going on with my child. That's what echoes with most of my clients. They want to be involved. Even if they're not living with their child, they want to get as much information as they can. Most court orders tell parents to share information about their child's health, their child's education, their child's welfare. For some people, they take it to extreme. They want to know every day what happened, and that becomes burdensome to the other parent. For other parents, they want to know the major stuff. They want to know about the good grades, the bad grades, what happened in sports. If a child's sick, especially if a child is missing a lot of school, usually both parents want to be kept informed. Sometimes I hear language that comes up, oh, I'm the primary parent. I don't have to tell the other parent what's going on, but that's not true.
Hmm.
Child didn't sprout from the ground. Your child was made from two human beings, and both human beings
Right.
typically want to have information. You want to also include things about school events, even if a parent is supposed to be signed into the school's portal. Just give him or her a nudge, like, hey, open houses tonight, or
Hmm.
hey, that big game is coming up, or she's going to do that speech. Just give the other parent a little nudge. Sometimes people get busy and they miss
Hmm.
things. Again, using that co-parenting software is great, or even text messaging or email. So
Right.
school events, medical appointments, extracurricular activities, those are things that parents should share with each other. And if anything else comes up, you don't want to take the position, I wasn't court ordered to share that.
Hmm.
No, just treat the other parent the way you would want to be treated. Share the information you would want shared with you. And that'll be a good rule to follow.
And we know that balancing information is crucial in these situations. Could you explain a little about how oversharing or undersharing can create tension or trust issues?
Right. Sharing too much can lead to boundary issues like,
Right.
hey, we're not married anymore. I don't want to hear about all of that stuff.
Mhm.
It can create unnecessary tension, you know. So it just depends on the relationship of the parents. Some parents, they're really great friends. They're like, we just couldn't have that romantic relationship, so we parted as friends, and that's great.
Mhm.
Sometimes parents don't part as friends, or they just didn't know each other very well to begin with. And so you want to balance that oversharing, burdening the other parent with your emotional issues, financial issues, unless they're really a friend and they want to know. But on the other hand, you don't want to undershare either, because
Right.
that creates trust issues. So, if you're going through something, if a parent's going to have a surgery, this comes up sometimes, or they're sick and they're in treatment, the other parent often wants to know, well, who's taking care of our child when you're going through treatment, or when you're at the hospital. So that's a good time to communicate something that's personal yet necessary.
Mhm.
Or if a parent is getting married, sometimes parents who are separated, they feel like, well, I don't have to tell the other person that I'm getting married.
Mhm.
But I tell you, in my years of doing this, it's really a good idea to share that. It's not always great for the child to come home and say, hey, mom or dad, I went to a wedding. Mom got married or dad got married. It's really helpful, and it makes things more fluid if that's something that the parents can share with each other. So you just have to balance it out.
Mhm.
If the other parent is saying, hey, stop, you keep calling me, you keep texting me, take that as a sign. Okay,
Right.
maybe you're overdoing it. If the other parent's asking you a lot of questions and they're saying things like, hey, I just want to know what's going on, keep me informed. Hey, what happened? Why didn't you tell me that? You're probably undersharing.
Right.
So kind of listen to those cues.
Right. And I mean, in your experience, what do you think the best approach is for parents that struggle with that information balance?
I think the best approach is when parents, they're struggling with that balance, just listen to what the other parent is saying, look at the of the other parent.
Mhm.
And most of all, and sometimes I hear clients say this all the time, well, the other parent's not like me. They're a little bit crazy. Okay, all right, that might be. So then go back to that golden rule. Just treat the other parent as you would want to be treated. Share with the other parent what you would want shared with you if the roles were reversed.
Right. Are there like specific topics or details that should kind of remain off limits or something that you just wouldn't want to say during, a custody discussion?
So, anything off topic, be careful of the name calling
Mhm.
and the insults.
Right.
Those are long lasting. I think those affect, again, the co-parenting relationship as a whole. I mean, a year can go by, but that parent's going to remember, like, I'm going to, I still remember what she said about me, or
Mhm.
that jib that she made about or that statement she made about my finances,
Mhm.
or my performance at work, or what have you, or the
Right.
name calling, and definitely don't get on social media talking about your child's parent.
Mhm.
That Because that not only hurts your child, and maybe you're thinking my child's not going to know, but you're insulting a family member of your child, even if you don't like the other parent. And people do that a lot, and
Mhm.
sometimes they don't name names, but they're still doing it.
Mhm.
And it's not hard to figure out who the parent is talking about.
Right.
So keep in mind that while you may have some issues with your child's parent, that person is still the parent of your child.
Mhm.
Your child has at least two parents. Some children are fortunate and they have extra parents, and they have step parents or blessing parents or whatever they're called, or just other people that have been in their lives. But most children have at least two parents. They may not know both parents, but in our situation, what we're talking about today, we're assuming that both parents know each other.
Mhm.
So just be respectful that when you're insulting a special person in your child's life, you're insulting your child.
Mhm.
So be mindful of that.
Right. So we definitely think it's kind of essential to keep those conversations focused more on the child and their needs rather than your own personal relationships with
Exactly.
the co-parent.
Just focus on the child's well-being. You may have things you could say. I say stuff it in your socks. Don't let it out of your mouth just because you think it. doesn't mean that you have to say it.
Right.
So just because you think of something doesn't mean that you have to say it. So, just calm down and the parenting relationship will get better. And a lot of times I'll hear clients say, well, I'm doing my part. I'm trying to be better. Yes, I've said some things in the past, but I'm really trying. The other parents, they're not doing it yet.
Hmm.
And just stay your course. Stay your course, do the right thing, and slowly the other parent will come around, because if you don't give them any fuel for their fire, that fire is going to die out.
Right.
So you stay calm even though they're heated and ratchet and on the ceiling.
Right. And I mean, lastly, for parents who kind of feel that the other parent isn't really cooperating, I know we mentioned those co parenting apps. So, how do you think those kinds of apps can help facilitate that effective communication? And could it benefit the case if it does go to court?
Sure. We use the communications from co-parenting apps all the time. They're probably some part of the evidence in any child custody hearing or trial. And I think that's good, because then both parents realize that they're under a microscope. They
Hmm.
know that what they're doing is going to possibly be seen by the judge, could
Right.
possibly affect the outcome of their case. And so those consequences are usually enough to make an adult dial back, watch what they say, watch how they say it, and just be a good all around person
Hmm.
and be a good communicator to the other person. So, since we've been using co parenting apps, I don't know how long it's been. I think communication has gotten a lot better.
Hmm.
Sometimes it has to be court ordered. I just heard someone say yesterday, the other parent doesn't want to use a co parenting app. Well, why not? Why not? You use an app for everything else. Why not use an app to co parent?
Hmm.
So I think the co-parenting apps are really good. Definitely check those out if you're not using one. And they're good for parents who are not even separated. I
Hmm.
mean, because there's so much information on there. You can track your child, especially for children who are in a lot of activities. There's a calendar function on there, so you can keep track of your child's appointments, doctor's appointments, school activities, school events. You can exchange money with the other parent with some of the apps. You can even have video calls. So it's a really good tool, whether parents are separated or not. It just kind of helps you manage your child's life.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it would be super helpful, like you said, even for parents that aren't separated but might be
Right.
busy.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
well, I think that
Exactly.
is all the questions I had for you, unless there's anything else you'd like
Thank
to add on.
you. No, no, not at all. I appreciate you being here. And
Of
so,
course.
thank you for joining us on this episode of the Alsandor Family Law Podcast. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe. And of course, leave a review, and be sure to share our podcast with other people who you think may benefit from this information. Until next time, remember, keep it calm and keep it nice so
Mhm.
that you can raise a good parent. Keep that communication good between you and the other parent. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Alsandor Law Podcast. If you need expert legal representation for matters about family law, the Houston Family Law Team at the Alsandor Law Firm is here to help. Visit alsandorlaw.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, or review our show and share it with others who might benefit from the conversations. Join us next week as we continue to explore crucial family law topics. Stay resilient and know that we're committed to supporting you every step of your journey.